In Lesson 7.4, we're going to talk about quadrilaterals and other polygons. So, what is a polygon? A polygon is just... what is it? It's... whoops. An enclosed shape with no curved sides. So it's got to be closed, okay? I can't do this and say if that's a polygon. That's no good. And I can't do something like this, okay? Because I can't have a curved side. So straight sides, and it has to be closed. That's what a polygon is. So now there's certain ones that we expect you to know the names. If it has 4 sides, well, 4 is quad. Quad means 4. So a quadrilateral. 5 sides, pent. So pentagon. Think of the building in DC. The Pentagon is shaped like a pentagon, which is why it's called that. 6 sides. The prefix for 6 is hex. So hexagon. 8. Oct. Oct means 8. So, yes, side note, October is because of 8, but that's because it's from like the Roman calendar or something. I'm sure you could ask your Latin teacher about that, and she'll probably tell you about October and why the 10th month is really named after the 8, but it is. So, octagon. Octopus has 8 legs. An octet is a musical group of 8 people. Oct means 8. And 10. Deca is the prefix for 10. So decagon. Whoops. Decagon. Okay, like a decade has 10 years. So decagon is a 10-sided shape. And a regular polygon just means it's where all sides and all angles are congruent. Now, I don't mean all the sides are the same size as the angles, but all the sides are the same as each other, and then all the angles are the same as each other. And an irregular polygon is where sides are different or angles. It doesn't matter. Just as long as somebody's different, it's not regular. That's all. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just everything's not the same. It's still a polygon. Okay, so pause the video and fill all that in before moving on to the next part. Okay, so now we have some special shapes to talk about. This first shape here is called a trapezoid. And a trapezoid is a quadrilateral, so it has 4 sides, and has exactly 1 pair of parallel sides. And they use these little arrows to show you that it's parallel. Okay, so the top and the bottom here are parallel. They could also have drawn it on the side. Doesn't really matter. As long as you have only 1 pair of sides that are parallel, that's a trapezoid. Now what happens if you have 2 pairs of opposite sides parallel? The top and bottom are parallel, and the 2 sides are parallel. Well, that is called a parallelogram. Everybody's all sorts of parallel. And it's a quadrilateral, so it's got to have 4 sides. Now, parallelograms over here can get broken up into 3 special types. If you have a parallelogram that has all pretty little right angles in here, what do we call that? That is a rectangle. So it's a parallelogram because the opposite sides are parallel, but it's a rectangle because it has 4 right angles. This is also a parallelogram because these 2 sides are parallel and these 2 sides are parallel. But when all 4 sides are the same, that is called a rhombus. So it's got 4 congruent sides. So it's got 2 pairs of parallel sides, and all the sides are the same. It kind of looks like a square that got knocked over. Speaking of, a square is a parallelogram with 4 right angles and 4 congruent sides. So a square is a rectangle and a rhombus. It's where the two come together. So pause the video and fill all that in before moving on. Alright, so now let's try some of this naming stuff here. We're going to identify this polygon and classify it as either regular or irregular. So to identify it, you got to figure out how many sides it has. So I just start marking them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It has 6 sides. Now I put dashes on them, but if you erase my dashes, you can see that the sides don't look like they're all the same length. So I'm going to say they're not all congruent. So it's irregular. And 6 sides means it's a hexagon. Alright, now we're going to look at this big jumble of a picture, and we're going to identify all the polygons that we see in the shape. So first we're going to look at the outside shape. So I'm going to count all the outer pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and this whole big thing is one more. So that's 10, which is decagon, which they kind of told us over here, but we'll pretend we didn't see that. Inside the decagon, we've got a whole bunch of shapes. Erase that so I can start looking at them. I see triangles. Kind of ran out of room there. See little triangles up here. I see a rectangle here. Or maybe, well, I see more than what they tell me. I see a rectangle. I see these two guys over here, which look like stop signs. Those are octagons. Right? I see this guy up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a hexagon. But what about these guys on the bottom? What are those guys? Those are trapezoids. So I see more shapes than they do. Hopefully you do too. Alright. Unless maybe I was supposed to scroll over. Hold on, let me see what's happening over here. My page got, nope. We're just smarter than they are. That's fine. Okay, so now using dot paper, they want us to draw a parallelogram. Well, remember, but it also says regular. So regular means all sides are congruent and all angles are congruent. Okay, so what shape has all sides the same length and all angles the same? That's going to be a square. So you can make any size square you want. Let's say I go 3 dots down, so 3 dots over, 3 dots down, 3 dots over. There you go. There's my regular parallelogram. You can make a bigger one. You can go 4, 4, 4, 4. You can also make a little one if you want. 1, 1, 1, 1. As long as you draw a square, any size square you want, you've done it. Alright, so now, okay. Trying these quick checks. Number 1, you're going to identify the polygon, so you're going to give it a name, okay, based on how many sides, and then you're going to say if it's regular or irregular. So you're going to do a name, and then you're going to say if it's regular or irregular. Okay, so there's 2 answers for these. Same thing here. Name, and then whether it's regular or irregular. Okay. In C, how would you find the perimeter of a regular polygon? Just think about how you find perimeter of any shape. And then in quick check 2, down there, Take a look at that paper and name all the different types of shapes that you can see in that pattern on the right here. You might see more than 4, so if you do, go ahead and list them. And number 3, you're going to use the dots over here to draw a trapezoid with a pair of opposite sides that are congruent. And the opposite sides are the non-parallel sides. So make the non-parallel sides congruent, which means make them the same length. Okay, so try those quick checks and we'll check your work in class.